Here. Former President Donald Trump will appear in federal court today for his arraignment in the special counsel's investigation into the January 6 riots. The former president is facing multiple criminal charges, accused of attempting to overturn the 2020 election results. Let's take a live look at the courthouse in Washington. As you can see, it's just a stone's throw from the United States Capitol, where prosecutors say the president's actions led to the insurrection. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett joins us now. Major, from your vantage point outside of the courthouse there, I believe you can actually see where the crowd had gathered on January 6, 2021, listening to then President Trump. How does that location color what's expected to unfold at the courthouse today?
It's an excellent question. The location essentially brings together law, politics, and history in a full circle sort of way. You see the courthouse behind me. This courthouse is situated in the District of Columbia geography near the intersection of Constitution Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. On that fateful morning of January 6, 2021, it is quite possible some of the protesters who went to the west front of the Capitol and then broke inside came right past this courthouse. Clearly, from my vantage point, I can see the entire west front of the Capitol. So if I had been at this position on that morning, on that afternoon, I would have seen the storming of the U.S. Capitol. And that is the event that precipitated us being here today. That's why it's a full circle moment for politics, law, and history. Because the special counsel has alleged that those events were part of a long-running post-election conspiracy overseen by the former president to defraud American voters who cast legal ballots and had a right to see those ballots certified through the Electoral College on that January 6th afternoon, and that there was a conspiracy to delay that congressional process. And that's the centerpiece of the two charges former President Trump will face. So that's the essence of why we're all here. And I can tell you there are at least 40, maybe 50 different camera positions, 100 yards of crammed cameras at the front of this courthouse to record this moment in American history. What's going to happen? Well, about 4 o'clock Eastern time, former President Trump will arrive via motorcade, escorted, of course, as always, by the Secret Service. The Secret Service will then hand him off to the U.S. Marshal Service, which will take him inside this courthouse, and he will be processed. There will be digital fingerprints taken. He will have to answer some very basic questions, as anyone processed in this courthouse must who's being indicted. Then there will be a plea entered on his behalf, not guilty. Then there'll be some other maneuvers inside the courthouse. Then the former president will leave. We don't know if he's going to speak before or after or at all in today's proceedings, but that is always a possibility. Those are the formulaic aspects of the procedure today, but the history can't be escaped. A former president is being brought before the federal bench to answer for charges that he undertook something as president to undermine the fundamental pillars of American democracy. Those are nearly the words of the special counsel, and they are all the way through that 45-page indictment that brought us all here today.
And Major, how is the Trump legal team responding to the charges in that 45-page document?
In various ways. Among the defenses proffered so far, and of course, the former president is presumed innocent until proven guilty and has every right to vigorous defense counsel. Among the defenses proffered so far, the president was merely speaking, exercising First Amendment rights, questioning the validity of the 2020 election. The indictment says that's certainly true. He had every right to do that, but he went far beyond that, and he took actions that undermined the very process of that 2020 election. The president's attorneys have also said, well, he was only acting reasonably on the basis of counsel given to him by experienced lawyers. That's not a defense if you have committed an underlying crime. Doesn't matter what kind of advice you're given. If you commit a crime, then you are culpable and can be held responsible, regardless of the advice given. There's also something from the defense team for the former president that says Washington, D.C. isn't the place to have this trial because the president can't get an assembled jury that's fair. They want it moved to West Virginia, arguing that the political atmosphere in Washington, D.C. is too hostile. Well, jurisdictional matters in federal and state court often depend on where the alleged events occurred. As I just outlined at the top of this, the alleged events occurred here. This is the jurisdiction. In all likelihood, this is where the case will be tried.
All right, Major Garrett, we're going to continue checking in with you throughout the day. Thank you. Well, from outside the courthouse to inside the courthouse, joining us now on the phone is CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Scott, you're inside the federal courthouse in Washington. What are you expecting today?
I'm in this small set of Americans who will actually see this historic moment. There are no cameras permitted inside this courthouse, and the former president's going to be escorted into a basement entrance that is away from public view also. So when he's in the courthouse today, for most of America, this proceeding is invisible. There's a special elevator that gives access between the garage underground, from where the former president will enter, to a first-floor area where the U.S. Marshals are. He's going to be fingerprinted and processed there. No booking photo. The Marshals have told us they don't need a photo of Donald Trump. They have a pretty good sense of where to find pictures of Donald Trump if they need them. And the processing itself should be almost as quick as the proceedings itself. We expect everything, soup to nuts, to be done here in less than an hour.
Scott, when we were talking to Major just moments ago, part of what we were discussing was the argument by the Trump legal team about the political pressures, metal barriers, rather, have been put up outside of the federal courthouse. With the pressure so high, talk to us about security measures across the nation's capital. What is the feeling there at this moment?
We have quite a bit of muscle memory here on how to do large-scale security proceedings and perimeters in the District of Columbia. It's just the way things are. Presidential motorcades are a semi-regular thing. Congressional delegation movements are a semi-regular thing, and so are security lockdowns at the Capitol, near the White House, in key areas. So there are multiple police agencies quite adept at working together. There are the U.S. Marshals here at the courthouse. The U.S. Secret Service will be here with the former president later. There's U.S. Park Police, D.C. Police, and Federal Protective Services all working around the outskirts or the inside of this court complex to make sure that a perimeter is kept and nobody can get in that isn't supposed to be in. Inside the courtroom, we expect some areas to be cordoned off when the former president gets here. That's what happened in Florida when he was charged there. It's what happened in Manhattan when he was charged there. But there's one difference today, and you will notice it if you have a phone on you around 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Unlike the previous two courthouses in which the former president was charged, today in this courthouse, phones are permitted by people inside. So you can get real-time updates of what's actually happening in the courtroom. That was not the case in Miami or in Manhattan.
A major difference. We're going to be watching for all of your updates throughout the day. Scott, another thing that you and I discussed yesterday, several January 6 defendants were scheduled to have their hearings happening simultaneously today in Washington. Are those still happening?
Some of them are being slid down the calendar. They're trying to create some space here today, literally or metaphorically. So some things are getting postponed if they can be postponed. We saw a whole bunch of 1 p.m. Eastern Time hour January 6th case proceedings pushed to August 10th, 1 week from today. That's what happened in Miami. They cleared the court docket to make things just a little easier logistically at the courthouse. But on the calendar today were a bunch of January 6th defendants, including a former Chicago police officer and a former actor on the TV series Bob's Burgers. But that's an indication of what every day has been like here for 2.5 years. There are 1,100 January 6 cases. They have to have a bunch of them each day just to keep up with the pace. Because, as a reminder, all January 6 federal cases come to this one courthouse in the District of Columbia because the alleged crimes happened here.
All right, Scott MacFarlane, again, we're going to continue checking in with you throughout the day. Thank you.